Hey, what's up everybody? Dr. Strong here, and today we're going to be talking about histamine intolerance and signs and symptoms of histamine intolerance. So, if you don't know what histamine is, stay till the end because this is going to be a very informative video to give you a whole breakdown about what the signs and symptoms are, what you can do to treat it, and just a test at the very end. That way, if you want to dive further into this, you can talk to your local healthcare provider and see if they can get that ordered for you so that you can get to the root cause and get some answers about what's going on. Now, what I want to do is tell you about the resources that I have below in the description of all my videos. There are free resources down there for diet plans, grocery lists, kind of like the timing of the meals, have weekly guides for use and recipes so that you don't have to really think about going to the grocery store, what you're going to get, what meals you're going to make for that week. It has cycling weeks so that you're not just eating the same thing every week, so that you can get some variance in your diet and that you don't get bored with the diet, which I know is a big problem for most people, is that they get tired of eating the same thing over and over again. So we give you some really good recipes, some really good alterations in meals so that you don't get bored with that diet and you can stick with it longer. Now, before we get started, if you haven't already, please smash the subscribe and like button. Share this with anybody that you think could really benefit from this type of information or my channel in general, because it's my mission to help as many people as possible. And by subscribing to my channel, liking it, and then sharing it, you're helping me accomplish my mission. And thank you so much for doing that. I really appreciate that. I think that there is so much misinformation out there about true health and wellness, and that's part of why I created this mission, to just educate everybody about what they can do to really take control of their health and what they can do to heal from any type of condition that they're having. So now let's get into the topic for today. Now, histamine intolerance occurs when there is a buildup of histamine in the body. Many foods contain high histamine levels, and various health conditions and medications can contribute to an intolerance. So now I'm going to talk to you a little bit later about some common symptoms of this so that you can see if you qualify for any type of histamine intolerance. Now, what is histamine? Histamine is a chemical that sends messages to the brain, signals the release of stomach acid for digestion, and it is released as part of the immune system's response to an injury or allergic reaction. So there are multiple ways that we use histamine, so it can be beneficial, but too much of it can cause the symptomatology that we're going to go over. So now, while it's important to have just the right amount of it, you don't want too much of it. So it's kind of like a Goldilocks scenario when you're looking at histamine levels. Now, an intolerance to this chemical happens when the body cannot break down enough of it in the intestines, causing high histamine levels in the blood to rise. So this is how we can test and see if you're having a histamine intolerance and if you're not able to break it down. Now, there are certain enzymes and there are certain vitamins and minerals that are beneficial and crucial when it comes to breaking down histamine. So you also have to look and see if you're having these vitamin and mineral deficiencies as well. Because if you are lacking those, then there's no way for your body to have the fuel and resources in order to break down histamine appropriately. Now, this typically results from having low levels of an enzyme called diamine oxidase. And what that is, it's the primary agent that breaks down digested histamine. So low levels of diamine oxidase. So there's a specific test for that you can do to really see if that enzyme is low. And then your healthcare provider should be able to guide you into how to resolve that issue and how to fix it. Now, when histamine levels get too high, or when it can't get broken down appropriately, it can adversely impact normal bodily function. Now, symptoms of histamine intolerance look like headaches or migraines. So if you're having chronic migraines or headaches, then that's something that you want to look into, especially if you've addressed the structural standpoint, if you've really done like a good elimination diet or any type of food intolerance testing. And then also if you've been to your primary care and they've ruled out any other type of neurological issue with that, you want to make sure that you definitely rule all of those out before looking at the histamine intolerance. Now, nasal congestion or sinus issues Why does this make sense? Histamine is primarily released around the mucosal glands. So basically from the nasal passages all the way down to the anus. So if you're having any type of infiltration or any type of immune response in those areas, then that's most likely where that histamine response and inflammation is going to come from. Chronic fatigue can be a sign of it. So if you feel like you just have sinus congestion all the time and you're tired all the time, you don't wake up and feel rested, definitely something that you want to look into. Hives, so any type of skin issues, because your liver is the primary detoxifier, but if the liver is overburdened, then what happens is the skin becomes the secondary organ to detoxify the body. And most of the time that looks like rashes, that looks like hives, that can look like psoriasis, it can look like multiple things that any type of skin issues. Now, digestive issues, so gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, irregular menstrual cycle, nausea, or vomiting. And then some additional symptoms may include abdominal cramping, tissue swelling, high blood pressure, irregular heart rate, anxiety, difficulty regulating body temperature, and dizziness. Now, all of those, you may have more than one of those, or you may just have one or two of those. If you've been through the ringer and you've really tried and worked a lot to try to figure out what's causing the issues, then definitely this could be a good option as your fallback to look in and see if it is the root cause of the issue. Now, let's talk about what causes high histamine levels. Now, the enzyme diamine oxidase is responsible for breaking down histamine that you take in from food. So we talked about this earlier. Now, if you develop a DAO, that's just what I'm going to call it from now on, deficiency and are unable to break down histamine, you could develop an intolerance. So this goes along with their food allergies and food intolerances. Now, some individuals have altered DAO production due to a number of different factors. Now, this can include small intestinal bacterial overgrowth or SIBO. Some gut microbes produce high amounts of histamines as a byproduct of their metabolism. So if you have some sort of dysbiosis or small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, this is what I work a lot with people on, is gut health, because I think it's so crucial and so foundational to your health. But if you have certain microbes in your gut, then a lot of the times they can lead to a lot of different disorders. They're very random too, which can make it very hard to distinguish. But a lot of the times doing like a GI cleanse or doing like a whole gut repair program can be very beneficial for any kind of random signs or symptoms that you're struggling with that could be impeding your quality of life. Leaky gut syndrome, or intestinal permeability, which means that like proteins and viruses and bacteria are actually leaking out into your gut and into your bloodstream, creates major inflammatory stress in the body, which can contribute to poor DAO function. GI inflammatory conditions such as Crohn's, IBS, inflammatory bowel disease, colitis, celiac disease, and those with gluten intolerances, and then certain drugs such as NSAIDs or acid blocking medications, antidepressants, and immune suppressants. Now those are all different factors that can inhibit the DAO function and the DAO production. So if you have any of those, if you suspect that you might be having any of those like SIBO, leaky gut, Crohn's, IBS, or if you're taking those certain medications, then that could be affecting it as well. And that's how some of these medications work, is that they inhibit the histamine response, or they block the response to it so that it just decreases that for a short period of time, but it doesn't really fix the problem. Now, here are some nutritional factors to consider. The DAO enzyme is dependent on vitamin B6, B12, iron, copper, and vitamin C. So it makes sense to increase the intake of these compounds. Now, the trick with this is that if you have SIBO or leaky gut or any type of maldigestion or malabsorption issues, even though you may be taking multivitamins or certain supplements, you may not be absorbing them. And this could be leading to deficiencies not only in the DAO enzyme, but in neurotransmitters and hormones, just a multitude of things. Now, copper and vitamin C are crucial components of the DAO enzyme, and B6 is a key cofactor that enables DAO to degrade histamine. Copper deficiency is another possible cause for low DAO activity, as copper is a central atom of the DAO and thus essential for its function. Now, controlling histamine levels with diet, and here are foods to avoid or at least limit when you suspect that you might have this histamine intolerance. Now, histamine-rich foods include alcohol and other fermented beverages, fermented foods and dairy products, such as yogurt and sauerkraut. Now, I know that there is good benefits to those, but if you're eating those and you notice that you're getting worse, it may be something to look into. Dried fruits, avocados, eggplant, spinach, processed or smoked meats, shellfish, and aged cheese. So if you notice that you eat those foods and then you're having some really bad reactions, definitely take a look at eliminating those and see if it helps resolve it along with supplementation. So there are also a number of foods that trigger histamine release in the body. Now, these are alcohol, bananas, tomatoes, wheat germ, beans, papaya, chocolate, citrus fruits, nuts, specifically walnuts, cashews, and peanuts, food dyes, and other additives. So if you're eating these consistently and you just have like really bad sinus congestion and postnasal drip, and then you're just inflamed throughout your esophagus all the way down, then you just want to take account into, I'm eating a lot of these histamine releasing foods. Maybe I need to cut those out of my diet. So you can go back and rewatch this and make a list of those and start cutting those out. Now, here are some foods to eat if you have a histamine intolerance. The following low histamine foods can help reduce symptoms. So some foods low in histamine include fresh meat and freshly caught fish, non-citrus fruits, gluten-free grains such as quinoa and rice, dairy substitutes such as coconut milk and almond milk, fresh vegetables except tomatoes, and then cooking oils such as olive oil can be low in those histamine and help downregulate that. Now, diagnosing histamine intolerance, here's kind of how you do it. Your doctor might also take a blood sample to analyze if you have a DAO deficiency. Now, GDAP, now that's from Precision Point Diagnostics, is a good test to check your DAO and histamine levels and just see if you do have this issue, and then that way you can work with your doctor and work with your diet to get this resolved. Now, make sure that you consult with your doctor and figure out what the best method for treatment would be. Now, if you have found this information extremely helpful, please like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps the channel. Hopefully it's giving you some good tools to kind of battle any type of flare-up or inflammation that you may be struggling with and kind of get to the root cause of what's going on so you don't have to rely on medication and you don't have to keep going through this cycle of struggling. And then share this with anybody that you know that has really bad sinus issues, that maybe have any type of gut dysfunction. Maybe you know that they're just eating those foods that I listed earlier just all the time, and they're just talking about how miserable they feel if they're chronically fatigued. And let's get them some help. Let's share this. Let's share the information and get people the help that they need so that they can have the highest quality of life as possible. And that's what my mission is. So thank you so much for watching this. And I really look forward to hearing from you, hear your success, and comment below if you have any questions. I would love to hear from you and just see what topics that you would like to learn more about. And I hope you all have a great day. Bye-bye.